The punk scene in Seattle was all about creating something out of nothing. There was only one bar that booked punk bands, the Gorilla Room. Aside from that, bands had no choice but to do it themselves. And people didn't take themselves too seriously in the scene either. There was a weird sense of humor, and being musically different was rewarded.
This was our punk rock haven. There was a record store there, there was a record store there, there was a record store there. There's a coffee corral there, and we just hung out.
In the summer of 1979, I played my first real concert with the Veins. Because we were all underage, together with two other bands, we rented a community center attached to a public park. Now, the week before the show, Andy and I stole about 20 plastic milk crates from the back of a grocery store and somehow nailed plywood onto them. But now we had a stage. That alone was pretty damn exciting for a 15-year-old kid. Our own stage. Now we could play anywhere.
Avant-garde, Thankless Dogs, The Veins, Cleavage, The Fastbacks, The Zip Dads, The Fags, The Farts, The DTs.
This punker dude in our neighborhood who had like a pink mohawk had heard that I played bass, and he asked me if I wanted to start a band with him, and my buddy Andy, because Andy played drums. Chris Crass, that's the guy with the pink mohawk. He doesn't have a pink mohawk anymore. That's Andy, it's the best friend I grew up with. He's the drummer. And there's me. That was called the Thankless Dogs. I don't know if we ever played a gig, but that morphed into what people generally think is my first band, which is The Veins.
Yo, yeah, we put out an album. It was a 45 with 3 songs on it. It's actually in the EMP Museum here. It was the first viable commercial punk rock recording in the Northwest. But I know that today that the originals are real collector items.
I enjoyed going to the shows when he was playing with Fastbacks, 10 Minute Warning. I always wanted to go to where they were playing.
You can see like we were going from punk rock into like a whole different thing. We had long hair. That band was killer. This band was awesome. 10-Minute Warning, The Fags. Last show, hands down one of the best bands ever. DOA, Vancouver. But that's the Fastbacks opening up. I made this. I made that flyer. Here's some lyrics I wrote. It's probably about 17. This is all, of course, before Guns. There was this really thriving music scene that I was involved with. Fastbacks, Silly Killers, 10-Minute Warning. 5 bands, $5. That's the Fastbacks. Kim Warnick, Lulu, Kurt Bloch, myself, with a turtleneck.
You know, back in 1980, 1981, you weren't really supposed to like, you know, it was kind of wrong to like punk rock. If you're a punk rocker, you're a punk rocker. If you're a alternative rocker, then you're into that. I mean, you had to pick your team. And, you know, we didn't really know. It's like we loved, you know, all of Van Halen and AC/DC and Cheap Trick, you know, just as much as the Ramones and Black Flag.
I'd been reading The Rocket and hearing about you guys, you know, 10-Minute Warning, The Farts, and all these other bands. And I was just like, I gotta go here.
You know, every city's got their local scene, but Seattle, to me, we were talking before, took punk rock and Sabbath and put it together in all these bands.
For 20 years, my mom and dad had 8 children. Myself is the oldest, John, and then Carol, unfortunately, who has departed us. And then we have Mark, Bruce, Claudia, Joan, Matt, and then Duff.
I started smoking pot at a really young age, 4th grade to be exact. I took my first drink in the 5th grade and tasted LSD for the first time in the 6th grade when I was offered blotter acid by an 8th grader on my way to Eckstein Middle School in Seattle. I first snorted coke in the 7th grade too. I also tried codeine and Quaaludes and Valium in middle school. My best friends and I started hot wiring cars in middle school.
Andy had heard something about the pre-63 VWs.
We found out that you could actually use a Swiss Army knife and you could start old VWs.
That you could start the engine with a screwdriver at the dashboard. I don't want to give all the tricks away.
We stole a few cars. I was actually a little more prolific at it than Duff was.
We'd go to these parties like over in Ballard, which is far from where we were from in Seattle. And we'd have to walk or take the bus. Now the bus stopped running at 1:30. We couldn't take the bus, so that's a long walk.
How am I going to get home? Hey, you steal a car, go home, you know, dump it a couple blocks away and you walk, and no harm, no foul. We always called it borrowing. We didn't call it stealing.
But I was involved in more car thefts than I can count, and more than I care to remember. But Andy, I think at the end of his run, it was something like 112 cars he stole.
I lost count after 200, but
By the end of the summer of 1984, I began to think that if I didn't get out of Seattle then, I might never get out at all. I could make it to LA in my old car, leapfrogging from crash pad to crash pad, maybe land at my brother's apartment for a few nights. But beyond that, there was nothing in particular drawing me toward Los Angeles. It was just a place, a bigger place, a place that wasn't Seattle, and with luck, a safer place than the heroin-infested Pacific Northwest.
What kind of destroyed all of that excitement was in Seattle was the heroin coming into that city. It was just like this dark cloud came in and just took all the fun away. And it really seemed like it came in like a tidal wave. Just suddenly was there, and everybody was trying it because it was kind of romantic. It was kind of punk rock. It was kind of, I don't know. But once you know, any opiate, once you're got a little bit of a habit, you're kind of just in.
But it became an epidemic. You know, I think when I saw it take out these guys who were so full of life, you know, who were smart, all smart guys. Like, I was too young to even take it all in. What do you mean they're dead? We've just begun, you know?
It kind of shocked me when he did leave to LA, and it was sort of an end of an era in Seattle. And the grunge thing didn't happen until, 10 years later.
He was really motivated to be a musician in Los Angeles. I don't think he was motivated to be a well-known musician. I just think he wanted to be able to get into the music scene down here and get into a band.
Slash told me what booth that he and Steven would be sitting in at Cantor's. I knew to walk in and look to my left.
I put an ad in the recycler for a bass player, influenced by Aerosmith and Alice Cooper, and I'm not sure who else in there. And he called, and I had him meet me at Cantor's Deli.
You know, I assumed because his name was Slash, I thought he was probably like a punk rock guy, an old punk rock guy like me.
And in walked this, 6-foot-plus guy in a red and black, full-length trench coat, hair to the ceiling, and like that. I said, that's got to be him. He had this sort of punk rock thing going, but then he had sort of had the Hanoi Rocks thing going, sort of a fusion rock and roll punk kind of deal going on.
I walked in, looked at the first booth on the left, and saw all this hair. Somehow I'd expected these guys to look like Social Distortion. Instead, even though they appeared about my age, the dudes in Road Crew had long hair and rocker chick girlfriends. If the sight of two long-haired rockers from Hollywood was a shock for me, I could hardly imagine having to talk to them. Of course, with my short, day-glow blue hair and long pimp coat, I must have looked like a Martian to them too. And both parties were a little surprised and curious when we first met face to face. Slash's long hair, it turned out, hid a shy introvert. He was cool though. He had a bottle of vodka stashed under the table. Now he and Steven weren't yet 21 either, and this was as close as we could get to a bar. We drank vodka and ate bowls of Cantor's barley bean soup. And Steven Adler, he was really nice and expressed himself with an infectious, almost childlike enthusiasm. He said, "Listen, we're gonna be great. Gonna get the feet stomping and the hands clapping." And he still says that to this day. Gonna get the feet stomping and the hands clapping.
And then going back to Slash's house that night after we talked at Cantor's, and he started playing guitar. I was like, what is up with this guy? He had a snake, you know, and thing, he had the snake out. Like, she's such a sweetheart. Like, it's a snake, dude. I don't know about the sweetheart. And you're playing guitar like that?
When I showed up at my first GNR rehearsal in late March 1985, Axl and I said hi to each other and started joking around about this and that. And I liked him right away. Whoever was running the sound then asked Axl to test out the microphone. And Axl let out one of his screams, and it was like nothing I'd ever heard. There were two voices coming out of him at once. I suppose there's a name for that in musicology. But all I knew in that instant was that this dude was different and powerful and serious.
And as for Izzy, he wasn't from the school of fancy guitar playing. More a Keith Richards than a Eddie Van Halen. Not only a great songwriter, but in my eyes, the baddest man walking the planet.
One night, when we were talking after rehearsal, Izzy mentioned a band called the Naughty Women, and it rang a bell. I know that band, I said, trying to place a name. I think I played a gig on the same bill with them once. Wait, Izzy, weren't they cross-dressers? Yep, Izzy said. I was the drummer. Finally, Slash and Steven agreed to come to a rehearsal just days before our previously scheduled June 6th gig at the Troubadour that was supposed to serve as a warm-up for our tour. We met at a space in Silver Lake. We rented it for $6 an hour, and that included a drum kit. From the moment the five of us leaned into our first song, we could all hear and feel that the fit was right. The chemistry was immediate, thunderous, and soulful. It was amazing, and all of us recognized it instantly.
There had to have been some sort of meant to be kind of thing going on, because Duff ended up there, Izzy, Axl, Steven's from Cleveland. I mean, and we were the only guys that could make up that band.
We knew we had to make it on our own, and after our Seattle road trip, failure was not an option with this crew.
And we were like all really became very tight very fast, and we were all driven and you know, set on this path together. You know, it's a very romantic type of story.
4 months, 5 months later, he calls me and says, "Come on down. We got signed. I just got $20,000." And he bought me a plane ticket, and I went down there, and because they were playing at the Whiskey, and Aerosmith's manager rolls up, and they got this, you know, limousine, and that's when, you know, Duff said, "Well, you can't come." I'm standing on Sunset Strip. First time I ever been to LA by myself, and
Aerosmith's manager, Tim Collins, wanted to meet with us. And I couldn't very well bring my friend along for this big meeting.
it's like, well, wait a minute. What am I gonna do? He goes, "Just, you know how to get home or what?"
Here's the key to the apartment. Just go to the apartment. It wasn't like I left him in the dust.
Man, I was pissed off. First of all, I wanted to be in a limousine, but second of all, he just like abandoned me down there. Anyway.
So I went and saw them and I said, wow, now that's the spirit. They're playing from their heart. We said, let's take these guys on the road. These guys would be great. They're just like us. They're coming up, and let's give them a break. Ozzy gave us a break.
That particular tour was awesome. There was two sort of hell-raising bands from Los Angeles. One that's been successful for a while, and one that was on the way up. But we were from the same gritty kind of street kind of environment in LA. And we knew each other, so it was just cool.
But yeah, and then it was just like, whew, it was just like, it just took off like a jet.
In early August 1988, we were sitting backstage one day when some people from our record label came in with a sheet cake from the local grocery store. Congratulations, they said. You're #1. I remember thinking, wow, a sheet cake.
I was like, I gotta find this record by this band, Guns N' Roses. And I didn't know what they looked like or anything. And then I saw what they looked like and I was like, Jesus Christ, these guys are creeps. Who are these? And yeah, the record definitely changed my life. I listened to the shit out of it.
Growing up in England in the late 80s, you could do nothing but hear Guns N' Roses. It was everywhere.
When Appetite came out, I played it over and over and over again. I worked at Aaron's Records, which is no longer there, on Melrose, and the original copy with the original cover came in, and I would always like grab one and put it in the back, and there was stickers in it and everything. And then they changed the cover, and then there was that one, and then I had the EP, so I loved it.
I learned to play just about every instrument from that record. I learned every song on guitar and bass, and I got a crappy drum set, and I learned to play drums from that record. I would have this boombox, next to the kit, just every day, the cowbell, and just the perfect record to learn to play drums on.
He used to pack up his Tama kit into the back of his Gremlin and drive out to Rancho La Brea Park and set up on the lawn in the park and practice out there.
We would do things like just, stop by the dressing room and go, hey, you're traveling with us, and we had our own jet. So we'd like throw a couple Guns N' Roses guys on the jet. And it was fun for us because here we are, basically a punk rock band. And I've got these like kindred spirits. We got a jet. It's like, this is like funny. Like, this doesn't happen to us. I was in Seattle selling drugs just a few years before. I got a jet. Now I got brothers. Let's just go wreck shit.
I think it was the Monsters of Rock show where they just blew everybody out of the water. Within a week of that show was talking about this new band from America that was kind of a mix between like just really edgy, heavy metal and punk.
A trippy phenomenon to be inside of, because you go out and tour, and we come back to LA, and everybody, we were gone for a year and a half. We came back, and everybody's dressed like us.
The Guns N' Roses and the big shows, that stuff made me uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to be around it. It was I don't know, it was surreal that my buddy was playing the Kingdom.
When we walked into a room, we were sort of like this little gang, and nobody could f with us, and nobody could rock better than us, and there was never felt intimidated by anybody, and it was just like this thing, and it was very tight.
I remember seeing them opening up for Aerosmith. And Duff was on the road. He'd been on the road with opening for Aerosmith for a while, so I couldn't even talk to him. Couldn't get a hold of him. There weren't cell phones or anything, so I had to get my own tickets to go see him. Seeing my brother up on the stage in front of, I don't know how many, 50,000 people maybe. And for the first time, seeing him in that sort of environment, thinking, oh my God, this is amazing.
On Christmas Day, 1989, I gave her the Halliburton luggage Aerosmith had given me and asked her to get out. I was adamant, and I was keeping the dog. Merry f***ing Christmas. I felt completely lost and heartbroken. I thought I'd let my mom and my family down. I thought I'd been caught living a lie, or rather lies, those little lies you tell yourself to help make your life fit a more idealized image. Now they had all suddenly been laid bare. For me, it all boiled down to one simple thing. just like my dad, I thought, in whose footsteps I tried so hard not to follow.
It was awful. It was awful. We got to see right before us, infidelity on my father's part. We got to see our mother break down. We would be there, picking up the pieces of what my father left behind, including each other. Duff had come up to visit us so that he could introduce us to his wife. And we went out for breakfast at a really nice restaurant. So he ordered a screwdriver, a triple, and he told the waitress, just keep him coming. And that was at breakfast time.
She was a heavy drinker, and she really contributed, I think, to his problem. That was not a good marriage.
A lot of people around me hope that once the day-to-day pain of the marriage and its immediate aftermath faded, I would be able to pull back a little from my everyday vodka habit. But instead of straightening out, I kind of fell apart. My drinking had taken off as the marriage went sour. And when she left the house, I started to add more drugs to the mix. My first drink of the day slipped forward from about 4 in the afternoon to more like 1. I also started to score larger amounts of cocaine so that I could drink more for longer periods of time. It proved a diabolical cocktail for me. Now I could drink until I finally had to sleep, and if you're doing coke, you don't have to sleep for up to 4 days, in my case. The only time I slowed down was if someone I respected, like my brother Matt, would say, "Slow the down." And I figured I'd cut back on the drugs and booze at some stage when the heartbreak subsided.
The concern for me mainly came from the anxiety that he was having. And our family has a background, I guess, of having anxiety, and so I knew how he was feeling. So we would get together, and he would be, having a panic attack or something, and we would talk about it and try to, get calm, try to calm him down. And I think that's where my concern was for him, was that trying to control his anxiety.
The attacks felt like being on a merry-go-round, just starting up, then going faster and faster until it was too fast. Then the ride turned into a gravitron, where you're spinning so fast you are pinned to the walls and the bottom drops. You're unable to move, unable to make it stop, unable to get off. I'm trapped. The sugar and alcohol speeded up panic attacks, as did cocaine. But drinking even more was the only way I knew to combat the attacks. It was a harrowing experience each time I arrived at a concert venue. And then came the gig at the Riverport Amphitheater outside St. Louis on July 2nd, 1991. The show started about an hour late, which by this point almost counted as on time. We played about an hour and a half, and we're in the middle of Rocket Queen when all hell broke loose.
I remember we were playing Rocket Queen, and there was this whole breakdown section, and we kind of going through this, you know, we're just jamming.
And there's a guy in the pit, and he's filming right in front of the security guys. And Axl on his microphone says, "Hey, stop that guy from filming."
Axl dove into the audience to try to address something the house security had not.
And the next thing I knew, he leaped off the stage, and I just saw these black feathers flying out.
His foray didn't last long, and I helped pull him upright as he lunged back up on stage. He then strode to the mic and announced that because security hadn't done their job, he was leaving. He slammed the mic down and stormed off.
It was like a mob scene, you know. You saw the crowd kind of gradually turn into a mob. So I remember going in Axl's dressing room and saying, "Hey man, you know, maybe if we go back out there, take down the crowd a little bit." Axl said to me, "Yeah, let's try to make it back up."
And at one point, Axl says, "Okay, let's go back out."
We're standing next to the stage, watching the stage, but at this point, there was people on the stage. They were taking amplifiers, and you know, there was like two guys carrying the piano off.
But the reaction was something that nobody was expecting.
Then it got really bad. Fights broke out, and at least 100.
We began to worry about the scale of what we were witnessing. Much of the venue was already in ruins, and people were getting hurt.
And it was like opening the door. It was like one of the many doors in the hallway of Yellow Submarine, the Beatles movie, when you know, and a train coming. And it was just like we opened that door to go back out there, and it was pandemonium out there, you know.
I vandalized some property here. I pulled out some plants and I threw it against the wall. I was mixed up in the commotion. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I just let my adrenaline take over.
The scariest part is they were actually kicking apart the plastic seats and throwing up pretty large chunks of plastic seats with metal on them.
But we could hear it all. The screams, the crashes, the thunder of thousands of feet.
Now, 15 people have been arrested in last night's incident. They will be charged with everything from disturbing the peace to destruction of property.
The band was shoved into a small van and told to get on the floor so we weren't visible. But Slash's hat was sticking up. The driver asked him to take it off.
I remember that, yeah.
Clots of cops ran around with batons and pepper spray. Kids ran this way and that. Medics rushed around, treating bloodied fans. Police had people in cuffs, and it looked like a war zone.
Slash and Duff were pretty good drinkers. You know, when I first met them, they obviously became world-class drinkers towards the end of the big G&R tour.
He was so young when he started drinking. It's just hard to know what his brain was really like.
We used to get up every morning, make a cocktail of a big solo cup of vodka this high with a splash of cranberry juice. And we did about half gallon to our heads a day just out of the refrigerator. And then we went to bars and fucking, you know, so it was 24/7 for years.
Well, at some point it becomes maintenance. You know, it's not like he's getting higher and higher. He just needs that so he doesn't feel crappy. I think Duff pushed it about as far as anybody could humanly push it.
I opened my eyes. Where the f*** am I? Thirsty as a vodka? Vodka. Vodka. I sit up, drape my legs over the edge of the bed, elbows on knees, head in hands. I groan. Where the f am I? That sound, that ominous sound. Scheisse. Not a good word. The change in tone. The bad rumble of a stadium of fans becoming foes. Again. Not again. That much vodka and that much cranberry.
He would take his first sip of it and he would realize right off the bat that it wasn't the mixture that he wanted, so he would just chuck it into the barricade and he'd look over at me, turn his back and go, and I'd have to make him a proper one, unfortunately. So.
He could go through and would go quite frequently through a half a gallon and a fifth of vodka in a day.
I spit on the hotel carpet again and rub my eyes. Knock at the door. Thank ice. I pour a tumbler of vodka over the fresh ice cubes. Back in the jet, snort some more coke. Vodka, vodka, vodka. No, Izzy. It's not going down like this. Don't go. The whole room is vibrating with anger from within and more ominously from without. I see the line. I'm standing with my toes right on it. Time for a line. I've got to sober up. I disappear behind a stack of amps. Get me the out of here. Wembley, vodka. Only an hour and a half gone by since the openers. On we go. I can stand. I can see. Izzy, this was your band. This was our band. Our band. This is a war of attrition.
You know, I remember when he decided he was going to stop drinking. I remember I went to his house and, you know, he was holding a half gallon of wine, Gallo. He says, "I stopped drinking," and he's holding a jug of wine. You know, I said, "What's that?" He said, "Oh, I stopped drinking vodka."
I tapered off of vodka. I was drinking wine, which I thought in my head, you're trying to, like, okay, wine's less potent than vodka, but not if you're drinking 10 bottles a day.
I mean, to be honest with you, from my experience, it's like, if you're a drug addict or you're an alcoholic, which to me is the same thing, you know, that you have that thing. Like, it doesn't go away.
Duff definitely had a blackout period. I mean, I wasn't aware of it at the time. You know, he definitely had that. He was at that point where he didn't remember a lot of the stuff that we had been doing.
Like trapped in a jail, you know, that you can't find a way out of.
It's a scary place, you know, because an addict doesn't want you to tell them what they already know. At some point, Duff, something had to shock him enough for him to make up his mind.
It was like another morning, waking up like, what the did I do last night? And when I rolled over, there was like a little shooting, stabbing, sharp pain. So I rolled over again, and that pain spread. It spread like down lower into my guts. I'm like, that's not heartburn.
So I get a call from Duff, "You need to get over here right away." So I go upstairs and I find him laying on the floor, sort of in a half fetal position, naked as a jaybird.
Mama put those guns in the ground. I can't shoot them anymore. Those cold black clouds that come around.
It spread and I couldn't move. It was like I was on fire. So I suddenly thought, this is it.
Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Let me hear ya.
Basically, half flung him over my shoulder and get him into my car, and we go to Dr. Thomas's office, which is about 4 blocks away from here.
Basically, alcohol's a poison. In his case, it was just direct toxicity to the pancreas cells, and they just get pissed and release all this nasty juice into themselves.
And they got me to the hospital. I asked everybody, the RN, and just kill me, just kill me, just kill me. It's barely whimpering, just kill me. There was a guy with a broken back, and there was me, and they had morphine in, and it wasn't working, man. And the guy with the broken back said, "Man, I got a broken back, but I'm just glad I don't have whatever you have."
Well, he said, dude, my pancreas exploded. I gotta slow down. I guess that was pivotal for him, that moment. And I think his life changed after that.
My pancreas had expanded the size of a football, and it burst. So I did have third-degree burns on the inside, and so I was on fire.
No, not like you'd think of a colon exploding or a gallbladder or appendix exploding, but it basically just started chewing itself apart from the inside out.
Monday, I saw him smiling by Tuesday. We talked a while.
I remember them asking Andy all these questions about me. What's your friend on? What's your friend? Like I wasn't there, and I really wasn't.
I remember at one point telling me that, it's a good chance he's not going to make it through this.
And so I went out to the hospital, and I saw him out there, and his mom was there, just like he talks about in his book, and it was hardcore.
And they gave me a button for the morphine, a button for the Librium. Take as needed. So I was just like, huh?
The last thing you need when somebody's basically having a third-degree burn inside their abdomen is to have them also go through alcohol withdrawal.
But they came in and did another ultrasound before surgery, and my pancreas had come down. It's looking like you've been given a second chance, dude. And you better figure out what you're gonna do with it. And that was like all the rehab I needed.
You knew this was coming, I thought. All you ever wanted to do was leave your mark on the world. Get in, get out. You've done that. I figured as part of Guns, I'd left a big mark. What else do you have to live for anyway? What else do you have to live for anyway? I'll never forget when my mom came to the hospital to see me. She was in a wheelchair from Parkinson's disease. And there I was, her youngest son.
Now you failed your mom, She shouldn't see you like this. That wasn't part of the plan either.
The order isn't right here. I should be taking care of her. It's not right. You're a up. I'm a up. The key for me was admitting how selfish I was being and how terribly bad I'd been hurting my own mother.
Who knows what the crystal ball ever holds, right? But, if he hadn't stopped drinking, I don't think he'd be here. He really would have pushed it to the point where there's no coming back.
I'm Thundering Iron Horse, known as Benny the Jet Yukides. I'm what they call the troubleshooter. When they're in trouble, they come to me, and I'm able to not teach them a way of life. My job is to give them tools so they can live their life. I teach the art of war. I teach the art of mental warfare, physical warfare, spiritual warfare, character warfare. You know, I turn people inside out, and so they can see themselves. And sometimes, a lot of times, we hide it very well. I think Duff had this light in him, but he couldn't see it. He just didn't know where to find it.
After jumping rope, there was a heavy stretch. I would be shaking by this point. And Benny would stretch me, and sometimes that would be the rest of the workout. He could tell when my body had been pushed far enough. He could also pick up on stress during the stretching sessions. He looked at my eyes and gauged the tension in my muscles and could tell what was going on inside of me. He talked to me when he sensed I was receptive to his lessons. But it wasn't a conversation. Still stretching me, Benny began to talk. It can feel like everyone is out to get you. That's when you have to refuse to succumb. Make people realize you are a force. But you also have to give and take in these situations. Place pain in a steel box and let it float away, Benny would say. Pain will always be there. It's how you deal with it that matters.
So we went from the mental workout to a physical workout. And then from the physical workout, he really got a chance to really start to recognize that he was actually going into a lineup, mental, physical, spiritual lineup.
I think was really good for him. And to really get into that and have such a great mentor in Benny, calming and had great, very, very wise and just a great influence on Duff. And I think that was a big part of helping him get his life back on track.
Everybody, after you get done with a self-destructive habit, whichever one it is, you have to channel that energy into something else. And when you quit, and that was the direction that he went.
He's like, do you want to go work out at the Washington Athletic Club with me? And I was like, yeah, man, I'll fucking work out with you. Sure. It was the worst day of my life. Like, his warm-up at the gym was more than my sort of whole 3 workouts. And after each step, I'm like, okay, where's time for the shower? And he's like, okay, now we're gonna go hit the bag.
And not many people get first chances. Not many people get second chances. I mean, it seems like he's got 9 lives.
And I just was very impressed by the fact that he could, after what he had been through, that he can totally turn his life around now.
Her name is Susan, he said as we waited for her to answer. He quickly told her about me and then just handed me the phone. We exchanged pleasantries and agreed to meet up at some stage when I got back to LA in October. And she sounded really nice.
He connected us on the phone, and the minute we started talking, we really just kind of clicked. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And we just enjoyed each other's company, good old-fashioned way, just talking on the telephone.
And as we walked past a newsstand, He pointed to a magazine cover. "That's Susan there," he said. "Oh."
"Oh, check this out. She happens to have, a picture in Allure magazine this month." And then he showed Duff the picture, and Duff was like, "Yeah."
Now call me shallow, but I was much more interested once I saw that photo. She had long brown hair and dark almond-shaped eyes. Beautiful. She was nearly naked in the shot too, and her body was absolutely slamming. "Yeah," Stain said, reading my mind. "She's the real deal." I didn't want to say it, but the famous fashion photographer Stephen Meisel gave her the nickname The Body after one of their shoots. "What's the body's last name?" I said. "Holmes." She was 5'11", and I fell in love with her in that very instant.
And we were pretty much inseparable ever since.
I think that they just got together. It was just a great match. Yeah, I think that all the bad stuff had already happened to him, and so when she came along, she, I don't think ever saw any of that.
For all who have touched the lives of these two, have helped them on their journey, who are their friends now and will be always, we pray to the Lord.
Lord, hear our prayer.
I, Duff.
I, Duff.
Take you, Susan.
Take you, Susan.
To be my wife.
To be my wife.
I promise to be true to you.
I promise to be true to you.
In good times and in bad.
In good times and in bad.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
I will love you.
I will love you.
And honor you.
And honor you.
All the days.
All the days.
Of my life.
Of my life.
Present to you for the first time as a married couple, Mr. and Mrs. Duff McKagan.
Susan and I went to go see our doctor when she was 2 weeks overdue. He said he was going to make us an appointment to go into the hospital the following morning so they could induce labor. Shit. Susan showed me through 15 excruciating hours of labor that she owned the warrior spirit of 10 men. She powered through all of that pain and confusion. I know she was more scared than she'd ever been in her life. But she never quit, and she never cried. And then it happened. Our daughter. My daughter? My baby girl. I have a baby girl. I have a baby girl. We named her Grace, and now life made sense. This was why I'd survived my pancreatitis. I was here to be a father of a baby girl, and I was at last ready for it. And then we were blessed for a second time. Susan gave birth to our second daughter, May. She was a big, round Buddha baby, but Susan's labor was much shorter and easier than it had been with Grace. I never thought my life could be this full. For a middle name, we gave her Marie, after my mom.
It was pretty funny. That first day, I called roll, and I got to Michael McKagan, and he said, here, but you can call me Duff. And I didn't quite understand him, so I said Duff McKagan, and the class kind of tittered, and I thought, okay, went on, and that was it. I still did not know who he was.
Ann Dawson was my first accounting professor. So we're into really serious day in, day out classes, and it's going fast, and I think she kind of caught on eventually that I was, even though I was 32, I was a new student, and that I was there for a different reason than the 19-year-olders.
And I think maybe looking down the road at his future, wanted to have some options, and also, yeah, maybe wanted to have more control over his income.
When Duff, having graduated business college and having a full-on knowledge, basically how the record business works and how royalties work and how publishing works and how percentages work and all this other, detailed stuff that he'd gone in there to really get a handle on.
He was a stellar student, and I'm not really talking about A's, B's, and all that, although I think he did very, very well. But he was a very interested student.
For some reason, me and Duff decided to take the subway downtown. We came out of the subway and we were going up towards our hotel, and this guy came, hey, you're Matt Duff from Revolver. And we'd been these guys from Guns N' Roses their whole life, And we were like, oh yeah, we are. That was a really good moment for us. We have a new life, a new beginning, which was cool. I remember when we went in to the premiere of the Hulk, we didn't have a name. And Slash had Revolver, but we couldn't trademark that because there was a million revolvers, I remember we were walking through the door to watch the premiere of the movie, and Scott goes, what about Dead Velvet Revolver? I think Duff said, why don't we just get rid of Dead and call it Velvet Revolver?
And it happened almost overnight, and it was just all about Velvet Revolver, and that band really, I think, came along at the right time, just like Guns had in 1987.
At this point, I should have taken a step back and assessed the situation. Never before had I felt I had so many people depending on me. I was now juggling being a good father and husband with trying to get a guy sober so that he could do the same. But I was also doing this because I saw real possibilities for this new band with Scott as our singer.
I remember saying to Slash and Duff going, are we sure this is the guy? It's like marrying a stripper or something, you know what I mean? It's like, you're in for trouble.
With the national exposure, there was a lot of interest in Velvet Revolver. And for the first time ever, I was mixing the spiritual healing of martial arts with commerce.
And it was major success. The record went to #1, the single went to #1, and we sold a lot of records, and we headlined arenas, sold out arenas all over the world.
Seeing Scott nodding and jonesing up there reminded me of some not so pleasant memories. In hindsight, I see that this was the moment I swerved away from the path I'd been on. A path that shielded me from the dark parts of my past. Each of us makes a handful of decisions in life that can have a drastic impact on subsequent events.
We flew out to New York to master the record, and when the record was finished, we were at Sterling Sound, and high up on a shelf somewhere in the studio, there was an unopened bottle of Jack Daniels. And so I fell off the wagon that night.
And I remember I was the first one that fell off, and everyone kind of looked at me like I was the Antichrist. You know, it's like, this sucks. I remember this is the most boring shit. I'd go backstage, and they'd be sitting there, these guys would be reading books and shit. I'm like, what the just happened to rock and roll? You know, really? Is this how we're gonna do this?
You'll get an extended adolescence by being a musician that's working, period. So there's just no rules, really.
One of my lowest bottoms during that, and I allowed it. I watched it happen, and I allowed myself to go down that path. I actually was very aware of it and conscious of it, and just kept going down that rabbit hole to see where it was going to lead. And when I finally got to the bottom, I was like, you know what? After all these years and this and that and the other, this sucks. You know, by the end of 2005, everybody was pretty up on something.
My flower, you're my road that I try to stay upon, even when things they go wrong. You stay there with me. Don't stay for what I'll do. Sleepless nights I drove you through. When I say the things I don't mean to, you stay there with me.
Like living the old life again, you know. So Slash is drinking, I was getting drunk and doing my share of drugs. But Duff had gone into this sneaky pill popping thing.
I looked at the bottle for a few minutes, then opened it and shook one of the pills onto the palm of my hand. I swallowed a Xanax pill sitting in a hotel room because everything seemed to be coming down on my shoulders.
I think in his mind, pills would be okay. That won't affect my pancreas, right?
I remember the moment thinking about the pills in my backpack, and I knew the moment I thought about it, like, you're in trouble. Working a game. And Dave, you know, he's like, dude, what's going on with you? And You know, I lied to him. That's what you do.
I'm like, dude, what did you take today? He's like, oh, I just took some blah, 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 and he bullshitted. You're off the wagon, dude.
Xanax is in the same family, actually, as alcohol. It's a benzodiazepine, which is the same feeling you get when you drink.
Then the pill kicked in. Everything's fine. The next day, I took 2 pills. My high tolerance for drugs came right back. By the 3rd day, I was figuring out how to get a hold of more pills. Lots more pills.
In a week's time, I was at 22 milligrams, so 22 of those pills a day.
He just was like, everything was slow motion. I knew at that point, like, okay, you're taking pills again, and you're not just taking them to fly.
When I knew he was in trouble, so I found him on the tour bus, passed out on the toilet in the tour bus. And he was in there for like 2 hours.
I'll deal with this soon. I've got what it takes. I'll go cold turkey as soon as I'm home. Soon. Susan had never known me f***ed up, so she didn't instantly recognize it.
Okay, you're down. You got knocked down. Are you gonna stay on the ground or are you gonna get up? What are you gonna do? Your choice. You wanna die, you wanna live. What do you wanna do? If you wanna die, let me go and get your gun. Get it over with. You wanna live? Let's fight. Get up on your feet. Let's go.
I needed this to happen to me. I wasn't bulletproof. It was time to get back to the dojo.
That was a real awakening for him. And thank goodness for Susan and the 2 girls, because they really have helped him to be a good family man and papa.
Yeah, they got great kids, 2 great girls, and yeah, they're both fantastic parents. He's a great dad.
I'm probably the luckiest guy in the world, you know, to have grown up under the tutelage of 7 siblings. Like through all the different periods of my success and going back to school and having kids and all that. You know, my brothers and sisters are pretty grounded, and I think that kept me pretty grounded.
And we can talk about Duff a lot and not talk about Guns N' Roses. Obviously, it's part of his legacy, but it's not who he is. It's just part of who he is. And that's what I find fascinating about him.
I maintained an idealized Norman Rockwell-like picture in my mind of how our home life should look. Until I suddenly realized that right there, right then, I had everything I'd always wanted. A family that needed me. Kids who were excited about something I could actually help them with. And my baseball team on the TV. If only Norman Rockwell had been there to paint this scene. It doesn't pay to try. All the smart boys know why. It doesn't mean I didn't try. I just never know why. Feels so cold and all alone. Oh baby, you're not home. And when I'm home, big deal, I'm still alone. Hi, Mike. Feel so restless as I am. Bang my head against a pole. Try to knock some sense down inside my bones. And even though they don't show, the skies are so old. You can't put your arms around a memory. You can't put your arms around a memory. You can't put your arms around a memory. Don't try. Don't try. Don't try. Just a bastard kid, and you got no name. Could you live with me? You won't have the same. Even though they don't show, the skies are so old. Okay, you can't put your arms around a memory. You can't put your arms around a memory. You can't put your arms around a memory. Don't try. Don't try. Don't try. Seattle, on the pedal steel, Mr. Paul Hutzler. This handsome man to my left, Mr. Mike Squires. International man of mystery, Mr. Berg Thomas on the drums. My partner in crime back here on the bass, Mr. Jeff Rouse. There's been a vote, the best guitar player in America, right here, Mr. Jeff Fielder. We've been blessed to have this string quartet here. Put your hands together for Mr. Andrew Jocelyn, Alina Toe, Seth May Patterson on the viola, and on the cello, Dana Olive Tree. And this man right here, we've journeyed through some shit together. My brother, Mr. Mike McCready. We're gonna ask you guys to help in a second here. you know those lines by Axl singing.
The moment when you hear